When you're finished with your concentric circle design, then you can choose a background paper that goes well with the colors in your circle. You may want to choose a contrasting color to your design. Like here I have a concentric circle with shades of pink, so I chose a blue-green background since it will make the pink stand out. You could also choose a background color that is in your circle so it matches. Then you should cut on the light gray lines on the back of your concentric circle design to cut it up into smaller squares. Remember to take your time with cutting and try your best to cut on the line. When you're finished cutting, you should have 16 squares total. Once your squares are cut, you should try to match up the design in different ways to plan for how you want to glue your squares down. Do not glue your squares onto your background paper without planning where they will go first, because once you glue them down, it will be really hard to take them off. It's a good idea to place your squares on your background paper in the order that you want to glue them down. You can turn the squares in different directions and decide which way you like best. Think of it as putting your own puzzle back together in an abstract way. Remember, abstract is a style of art that focuses on the use of shape, line, and color, and not a specific subject like a person or place. Like here, I'm going to place my squares down in the way that I want to glue them first. I'm putting the squares that were originally in the center of my concentric circle on the outer corners because I like the way the reverse design looks. Then I'm placing the squares that were originally part of the outer corners of my concentric circle in the middle of my collage because I like how it creates a diamond shape when the pieces are placed together. But remember, you can place your squares in any order that you like because you are the artist. Now that I've planned my collage, I can begin to glue my squares down. Remember, the word collage means when you put small pieces of something together to make one picture or work of art. When you're gluing, you need to twist the orange cap of your glue bottle to open it, and then flip the bottle over and shake it gently to move the glue to the bottom. You should start gluing your squares that are on the outside of your design first. This is a lot easier than starting by gluing your design in the middle because you can line up the edges of the papers together. I like to start with gluing the corners first and then the sides, and last glue the middle. You should glue on the back of your concentric circle squares, not on the background paper. It is a lot easier to glue neatly this way. Squeeze the bottle a little bit so just a squiggle of glue goes on the back of the piece of paper. Make sure not to put too much or it could be a big sticky mess. When you place your squares down, hold them in place for at least 10 seconds so the glue has some time to stick to the paper. Remember, after you place a square down, it is really hard to remove it, so make sure it is going in the right direction. I'm going to speed my video up now and it will look like I'm gluing in lightning speed, but remember, it is just my video. You should take your time to plan where your squares go and glue each one carefully so that you place it exactly where you want it. Remember to hold each square for at least 10 seconds after you place it on your background paper. Now it looks like I'm all done with my collage, but let's check to make sure that all my squares stay in place. You can flip your paper over and give it a gentle shake. If you notice that any of your squares are falling off, then you need to add a little bit more glue. You should also turn your paper over and press down on the back to make sure that every piece stays in place. Don't forget to write your name and class code on the back with pencil. Oops, I should have done that in the beginning before I started gluing. When you're done with the glue bottle, make sure to twist the orange cap to close it. One option you can choose to do with your squares is cut them into a different shape. Notice how I have cut the pieces in my corners to have a curved side. I did this to each corner piece so that they all match. I also cut the side pieces to have a curve by the yellow part. If you would like to do this, one tip I have is using one of your already cut pieces as a tracer and placing it on the piece that you want to cut, and then tracing the shape with a pencil. Then you will end up with a line to cut on and have shapes that match. When you do this, you're creating symmetry in your design. Symmetry means when shapes are the same on both sides. One thing to double check is that your shapes are facing in the direction that you want them to be so that their colors match up. Remember, if you accidentally cut your shape in the wrong direction, it will be really hard to put it back together again. This is also just an option that you can choose to do. You can also leave your squares whole and not cut them at all. If you're up for a challenge, go for it. Remember when you're gluing your shapes down that you should start with the shapes on the outside and work your way to the shapes in the middle. For my pieces in the middle, I decided that I'm going to cut them a little bit too to create more of a diamond shape in the center of my collage. Remember, if you choose to cut your shapes, you should cut one shape and use it as a tracer for all the other shapes that you want to match. You're gluing, don't forget to add glue to the back side of the shape, not the background paper, and hold your shape in place for at least 10 seconds to let the glue stick. Remember, when you're done, make sure to shake your paper to see if everything stays in place and flip your project over to press all the pieces down. Also, make sure to check that your name and class code are on the back of your paper with pencil. If you decide to cut your shapes, you can recycle your extra cut up pieces or keep them. If we have to stop in the middle of your collage process and clean up, we can use a plastic bag to save our cut up pieces in. Make sure to write your name and class code with a Sharpie on the bag so that we know the pieces are yours. When you're done, make sure to put your project on the drying rack so that the glue can dry. Remember that you can choose to glue your pieces as regular squares or cut the edges a bit to make an even more abstract design. The choice is yours. I cannot wait to see how your abstract concentric circle collage turns out.